Hi, welcome to this episode of Simply Saturday. My name is Julie, and this is Stamp with Julie Baum. As you can tell, my opening is a little bit different today. I wanted to be able to speak to you and have you see me. I am working on a system that will work a little bit better, but I don't quite have it all dialed in yet. So today we're starting with me saying hello, and now I'm going to flip the camera so you can see my desktop. Hold on. As I mentioned, I'm working on my new system, and it's going to be, whoa, it's going to be much smoother and hopefully not drop my camera like that. But as I've learned through every new techie type thing that I've had to do is sometimes you just have to jump out there and try a few things. You cannot wait until it's perfect before you put it out there. So I'm following my own advice. Thanks for being patient with me. We are going to make a card here in just a second, but I do want to mention that for those of you who may have seen last week's episode, so that would have been episode 55 on Saturday, February 25th. I got some comments about that, and I just wanted to address those. I was fighting a couple of things. I had a scratchy throat. I thought maybe I was getting sick, which it didn't really result in anything, but I did have a scratchy throat when I was filming. Also, one of my dogs was kind of yipping in the background, and I was trying, without acknowledging it, to hush my dog. And the other thing is I use a microphone that I connect to my lapel just so that you can hear me a little bit better. And I had neglected to do that for nearly half of the filming. So it was probably hard to hear me, and I do apologize. I think we've got all of those little mistakes worked out for today's filming. So let's proceed and see how we do. We're making a card today, and we're using the Pansy Patch set of stamps. Now there are coordinating dies to these, but I won't be using any dies. We're going to be doing a little bit of fussy cutting instead. This is found in the current annual catalog. All right, also I'm using some paper. This is now retired, but this was the coordinating designer series paper that was released when the Pansy Patch stamp set came out. This paper was called Pansy Petals. So if you have it in your stash, then you can grab that. If you don't have this paper, you'll see that you can substitute with a number of other pretty little printed papers. All right, so I'm starting with a piece of soft succulent as my card base. It measures 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches. I have scored and folded it at 4.25 inches. I'm going to use my bone folder to reinforce that fold. Then I have 2 pieces of white cardstock. These each measure 4 inches by 5.25. One is for the front and one is for the inside panel. Another funny thing that, well, I think it's funny, if you look at my past videos, like prior to like January of this year, you will notice that my nails do not look so horrendous. I was taking a break from my acrylics, and I had a terrible time this time removing them, and my nails just got entirely thrashed. So they are in the healing process before I choose to go and start getting my nails done again. So forgive my ugly little claw nails. All right, the next piece I have is a scrap piece of white cardstock. We're going to do our stamping on this. Okay, the designer series paper. I have 4 strips. They each measure 1 inch by 3.75 inches. So the first thing we're going to do with those is attach them to that front panel of white cardstock. All right. What you probably want to do is lay it out, kind of do a dry fit first of all. Let me get this up where you can see what I'm doing. This will not only help you decide what order you want your little papers to go in, but also give you an idea of the spacing that needs to occur. Now, I do have one of these cards already made, and I'll show that one to you. I want to show it to you because the spacing of the papers is not perfect, but the card still came out really cute. So I will show you that to help put you at ease that your spacing doesn't have to be perfect. You just kind of want to get it close. So see, I'm going to move these apart a teeny bit more. I think that I want my spaces between these a little bit closer, even if that means that my outside two borders are a little bit bigger. So we're going to go with something kind of like that, okay? Again, once we get our images on there, it's not going to be too obvious if it's not super equal all around your spacing. All right, so here's my first piece. And I'm using liquid glue so that if I do want to slide it around and reposition it a little bit, I have a moment to do that before it dries and gets difficult to move. All right, there's piece number one. Let's get the second one on there. Now, if you really wanted to be careful and you wanted to measure and mark this up with a pencil, you could, of course, get perfect spacing. I typically don't take the time to do that, and certainly not on a Simply Saturday card, because that kind of defeats the purpose and doesn't make it so simple. So I'm just going along. This one's a little bit wider than that. I'm not going to worry about it. And then our final piece. Okay, so I'm going to be happy with this. Again, if I took a ruler and measured it, I know it's not perfect, but that's okay. It's a handmade creation, and it might not be perfect as if it came out of a factory. Okay, there's our Pieces of Designer Series paper. That is going to now get attached to our card front. Yeah, there's no reason we can't do that. You know, you do want to stamp before you do your gluing, but our pieces are going to sit on top of this, so we're just fine. Let's keep moving forward. All right, so I've aligned this by eyeballing it, looking at my borders all the way around, and I'm happy with that. I am going to give this a flip and press it this way. Earlier today when I was making a card, I did have a little bit of ink on my fingers, and because I pressed this way, of course, I got ink on the front of my card, which we're going to come back to because I want to talk to you about one other of my favorite non-Stampin' Up! Tools that I use regularly. So I'm going to mention that here in just a minute. Okay, so we've got our front panel done. Now we're going to do our stamping. So I have a narrow scrap piece of white for our die cutting, or for our punching. I'm so sorry. I'm using the double oval. So I'm going to punch the white oval right out of this narrow piece of white scrap. Okay. And then I've got a piece of Evening Evergreen cardstock, and I'm going to use that to punch this oval out. I love this punch. And you know, as much as I have dies and love dies, sometimes you just need to grab a punch just for the quick and simple, the simplicity of it. You know, with that said, I do want to mention, I'm going to have a link below this video. There are some online exclusive products. In other words, you're not going to find them published in any of our catalogs. And one thing that I saw that I'm super excited about is a couple of circle punches have come back to be available. I believe it's a 2-inch and also a 1 3/4 inch. I'm not sure, but I'm going to put the link in the description, and you can go and see those multiple pages of online exclusive products that are available right now. Okay, so back to our project. I'm going to stamp on this little white oval. I'm going to use Blackberry Bliss ink, which has recently kind of become a new favorite again, an old favorite, new favorite. And I'm using Happy Birthday out of the Pansy Patch stamp set. I got to a point where I had so many birthday cards just in my card file that I've been making lots of cards that are not birthday. Thank you cards, thinking of you cards, just hello cards, to the point where all of a sudden I'm really, really in need of birthday cards. I don't know if that happens to you, but I need to get on a birthday card rampage and get a bunch of birthday cards made. So we're doing one today. Okay, there's our happy birthday words, white oval, and that's been attached to the Evening Evergreen oval. All right, there we have that. Now let's do our stamping. I do have a scrap here that I'm going to do my stamping on of basic white. All right, and let me show you, while I was playing with the pansies, I tried all kinds of different looks. All right, the colors are pretty much the same because I knew I was going to use Fresh Freesia. I knew I was going to use Blackberry Bliss, Soft Succulent for my light green, and Evening Evergreen for my dark green. But as I was playing with all of the different pansy pieces, I added some black in there because pansies do have black sometimes. I did a bunch of images without the main pansy shape, and those were cute too. So you might want to fiddle with it to see what you like the best. All right, I'll show you what I ended up with for our card. So using the main pansy shape, and this is a smaller one. See, there's a really large pansy also. So I'm using the smaller one and then the detail stamp. Okay, Fresh Freesia. Here we go. I need one of those and a second one. Kind of like that. Then I used the small little accent piece. I'm using this one with my Blackberry Bliss. Oh, before I do that, that is true. But before I do that, I'm also using this image with Blackberry Bliss. Okay, so we're using 3 stamps so far to create our pansy. When I put this one on, I have to line it up where I think it goes. And then I know mentally I need to scoot it down a smidge. So you may have to play with it and see what's easiest for you to get it lined up. Plus, when I'm filming, it's always a little bit hard to see, but I know you're forgiving. Okay, there's my pansies. Cute. Now we're going to use that small one still with Blackberry Bliss. All right, and I am going to get that in place 2 times. All right, then I didn't want to throw in another color. Here, I'm going to move my camera for just a second. There we go. I didn't want to add in another color, but I kind of had to. I feel like it needs that yellow center. So with crushed curry and this little tiny, it's almost a triangle, and just drop that right in the center. There's our pansies. All right, very quick 2-step stamping. Let's add a few leaves. So the first one is in Soft Succulent, and I am going to do this leaf just kind of up here. All right, then I'm going to take another one here, and then without re-inking, I'm going to add a third. Okay, so I've got, ooh, look, see, I did have ink on me again. That's not going to matter for our project. I'm going to get it off my fingers though real quick. Okay, now this detail stamp for the leaf and Evening Evergreen, it lines up actually quite well. Now when I go over here, I'm going to do that first one that I did. Then without re-inking, I'm going to do the second one. And that way I get my nice variation of greens. Okay, from there, we're going to take our scissors and just do some fussy cutting. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to gently kind of follow the ruffled edges of my leaf. And then without too much effort, you can get around pansy number 1. And then the other leaves. Now, I don't know if you really hate fussy cutting. I'm not sure what to tell you. I don't mind it. And I have learned to not be overly picky on my cutting. Maybe that's why I don't mind it. But for some of you who don't keep your stamping supplies out all the time, by the time you go and get your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine out and get the plates and get the dies and get it all set up to cut this out, you could have just grabbed scissors and done fussy cutting. So sometimes it has a place. I'm doing it today to save us the time. And just to show you, in case you don't have the dies, it's still a beautiful stamp set. Look at, there's our little focal image. It's so pretty. This is reminding me how much I love this stamp set, even though I haven't used it in a while. Okay, let's go back to that smudge, because I want to show you this in case you haven't never used one of these. This is called a sand eraser. I'm going to put an Amazon link in the description below this video. So that if you want to grab one of these, it's a helpful little tool to have. Now, if you have an ink smudge on your card, it's not going to completely erase it and take it away as if it never existed. But sometimes you can get rid of enough of it that you're able to be happy with it or camouflage it. So as you can see, that little edge that was right there, I pretty much got rid of. There's still a hint that something was there, but it's way better. This piece is pretty dark. I don't know that it'll do much on that, but you're getting the idea that it's better than nothing. Instead of having to toss something, it's worth trying. So I love my sand eraser. I will link that for you. Okay, let me brush all those little bits off of my surface. Okay, let's put our card together. This piece is going to go on with just some liquid glue. You could use your Stampin' Seal or even some tear and tape on this if you want, but I suggest that it's a flat piece because we're going to raise our words with 2 dimensionals. So let's do that next. This oval is not so large that it would require 3. I think 2 is going to be plenty. Okay, and then I'm just going to put this kind of really right over my leaves, but not completely. They're still peeking out a little bit, so it's worth having them there. All right, so there is that. The next piece I want to add is just a little scrap of fresh freesia ribbon. So I'm just going to cut off a short piece. That was about 4 inches, 4.5 inches. All I'm going to do is tie a knot on a Simply Saturday card. Sometimes we don't have time to mess with a bow. So let's just tie a knot. Now you could get away with even less when you first cut that off, unless you feel like you need it in order to tie your knot, because we're still going to trim some of this off. Let me grab my glue dots. Press this on to the sticky glue dot, then peel the whole thing off of the wax paper liner. And now this is sticky right there and ready to go on my card, like so. And now I'm going to trim those tails. So like I said, you could have started with an even shorter piece of ribbon, but sometimes you get much shorter than 4 inches. You don't have enough to hold on to. All right, I kind of like how this draws your eye down and across the card because we've angled our little elements like that. I think that this needs a little bit of Wink of Stella. Now I did know before I jumped into this that the wetness of the Wink of Stella could cause the ink to kind of melt out a little bit. I'm not thinking of the right word. Like run a little bit. And so in anticipation of that, I kind of want it to. So right here on this accent part around the center of my pansy, I'm just going to kind of smear this in. You can see how it's kind of causing that ink to blend out a little bit. There's the word, blend. All right, so on each pansy, just near the center, I'm doing that, letting that blackberry ink kind of blend out. And then it's also putting a soft little shimmer to the center of the card. It's hard to see Wink of Stella on camera, but in person you can see it. So with that, I stopped. Of course, you can add rhinestones if you want to or something to bling it up, but I think that that is good. I want to put a little image on the inside panel. We've already got our stamps. Let's just do our pansy one more time. So fresh freesia, followed by Blackberry Bliss, Blackberry Bliss again, our little tiny dot of crushed curry in the middle. And let's add a leaf or two. I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper to just tuck it under because I'm going to go off the edge here. So I'm going to do 1, 2, and Evening Evergreen with the accent. Twice. There we have it. Okay, we're going to put this on the inside, and here's my glue. Let's attach this. Sometimes sometimes it's faster to grab a little scrap of designer series paper and put it on the inside, but I felt like in this instance, my stamps were right here, all the ink pads were open. It was pretty quick to just stamp that pansy and let it be the fancy little inside for today's card. All right, there we have it. There's our pansy patch. Let me bring in the other one that I did. I told you I would show you the spacing. See, the spacing is not perfect, but when you just look at the card, it's totally fine. And on this one, I had a green little ink smudge right there that I was able to successfully get rid of most of it with my sand eraser. So there you have it. There is our card for today. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to have you comment, give me a thumbs up. And by the way, if you have not subscribed yet, please do subscribe. My subscriptions are climbing and that helps me so very much. And I also want to be able to share each time that I post a video. If you subscribe and hit the notification bell, then you'll be notified each time I put up a new video here on my channel. This has been so much fun. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy stamping!